Inc. and welcome to another virtual DMI What's Up Downtown breakfast. Hope you're all having a good morning on this glorious sunshiny day. Hopefully it warms up soon. Today we are excited and pleased to have an important conversation about event and entertainment venues coming back to business, a huge part of the downtown economy. Over $300 million is spent in tourism and hospitality in downtown, and we have all craved wanting to get back to these spaces. We have got two amazing panelists and friends of DMI. First, we have Amy Supple, the Senior Vice President and Chief Operating Officer of the Edgewater Management Company, and also our good friend Joel Plant, CEO of Frank Productions, here to give an update and to talk about how we can move forward. Two of the best in the business. I think this is going to be a great panel. All of our pre-meetings have been very funny. So hopefully we deliver here today with some humor on a lighthearted subject, but on a difficult subject as well. Before we get into it today, though, we would not be here without you guys, our members. And we are excited to announce several new members that have joined DMI in the last month or so. Thank you to our great friends at the Campus Area Neighborhood Association, Amal and Theo and the team, Cleo and the team. They are fantastic. We are excited to have them as part of our organization. We have the Madison Reading Project with Rowan Childs, good friend, who her and I, you probably don't need to know this, but we walked 50 miles together once for the Boys and Girls Club. We're going to do so again this year. We've got Modus and our great friend Jake Morrison back here at DMI, great architect here locally. We also have Operation Fresh Start and Jody Wayers and Sarah Millstone coming in as new members. Thank you to all of our new members for joining DMI, and thank you for your continued support of our organization. We look forward to seeing you soon at an event, hopefully in the next few months live. Next, I am pleased to welcome the co-chair of DMI's Board of Directors and shareholder at Von Briesen and Roper, the great Megan Yarbeck, who's going to give a board update on some things that are happening here at DMI. Good morning, Megan. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks, Jason, and good morning. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you great.
All right, wonderful. Well, I'll try to do this quick so that you don't hear the kids in the background, but I'm looking forward to today's discussion with Amy and Joel, as events and entertainment are so important for the vibrancy and economic strength of our downtown. It'll be great to hear how we can get these event and entertainment venues back to business and bring people back downtown. So before we do so, I'm really pleased to share some exciting news about a new DMI event. We continue to look for ways to provide additional value for our members and to move our downtown forward, and this is just one of the newest ways DMI is doing that. DMI will be partnering with the Milwaukee Downtown Organization on a new virtual event series called the Madison and Milwaukee Downtown Exchange. This will be a quarterly series, and speakers from the two downtowns will share ideas on how the regions can work together for greater collaboration, growth, and investment. So it's going to be a really great event. The first of these virtual events will take place next Thursday, April 29th from 8 to 9 a.m. via Zoom, and will feature a conversation on the state of our downtowns between our very own Jason Ilstrup and Beth Rierick, CEO of Milwaukee Downtown. All DMI members are welcome to attend and can register on the DMI website now. So after today's meeting, go ahead and log on and get yourself signed up. You won't want to miss it. Whether it's attending this new series or any of our other events or committees, I do want to take a moment to remind you that if your company is a member of DMI, all of your employees are invited to engage and participate in our events. So please spread the word and encourage your colleagues to attend. It's a great way to connect with good people in this city, which I know we're all missing very much right now. So we greatly appreciate the support and involvement from all of our members. We're so happy to have you here today. We're here to serve you and our downtown in any way we can. So if there's anything we can do for you, please let us know. And with that, thank you for being here, and I'll turn it back over to Jason.
Megan, thank you very much. First, thank you from our entire organization for all of your leadership during these tough times. You and Nathan, the co-chairs, have been outstanding. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Hope you all can join us for this great new event that Megan just mentioned, the Madison, Milwaukee Downtown Exchange. It's going to be a quarterly series. It's going to be excellent. I'm sorry if I'm the first speaker, if that's less than inspiring, but we've got other great speakers coming soon, I promise. Now, look, we would not be here today if it wasn't for our sponsors. We are so thankful for everybody that helps out here at DMI. Thank you to our major series sponsor, Whipfully LLP, our supporting series sponsor, Ho Chunk Gaming, Madison, Michael Best and Friedrich, State Bank of Cross Plains, the Edgewater Hotel, and UW Health, Unity Point Health, Quartz, Meritor. We are so thankful for your continued support of DMI. We'd also like to personally thank our monthly sponsor this month, the great law firm anchored downtown of Boardman and Clark. We greatly appreciate everything that Boardman and Clark does for downtown. And we have an amazing board member who is an attorney at Boardman and Clark, Allison Helland, who's going to say a few words. Followed by Allison, we have Anita Mohammed, the DMI board member and treasurer for the organization from Whipfully. We're going to start off with Allison. Good morning, Allison. How are you today?
Good morning. I'm doing well, and what a year it's been. I believe last year around this time, we also sponsored a breakfast, and it was right as we were going into all of this. It was a scary time, and we thought we'd be out of it in a couple of months, and things have really changed since then. So I'm happy to say it's a beautiful day, and it looks like we are finally coming out of it. As you mentioned, Jason, I am a partner at the law firm of Boardman and Clark. I practice primarily business and tax law. As you said, Boardman is one of Madison's longest standing downtown-based firms. And as a firm that's based downtown and is a very active part of downtown, we like bringing a lot of the elements of downtown to our clients for client experiences and also just some of our community partners. And as some of you, if you've been to our patio know, we like to do things there and we really like to engage. So summer downtown is a big time for us, and it's a little different this year, but I think that's one of the reasons that I'm so happy to hear about this panel and hear from Amy and Frank Productions and everybody that's really doing everything to ramp back up and get downtown back to what we really remember and enjoy it being. So I'd like to thank everybody today. I'm really excited to hear what the panel has to say. I know we're looking forward to getting back to business downtown and getting our clients back to downtown and really enjoying the experience that it is to be downtown. And so I look forward to learning, and thank you very much for the opportunity to sponsor.
Good morning. My name is Anita Mohammed, and I'm a partner with Whipfully LLP and member of the DMI Board of Directors. Whipfully is pleased to participate as the major sponsor of the DMI What's Up Downtown Breakfast Series. Thanks for joining us this morning. As a multidiscipline professional services firm, Whipfully delivers effective, personalized services to help companies and organizations like yours through these trying times to create lasting positive impact. We are here to help leaders like you navigate the ever-changing economic environment, and we invite you to visit whipfully.com for industry-specific insights for financial institutions, construction and real estate, nonprofits, and more. Thank you for joining today's program, and I hope you are all safe and well.
Thank you very much, Anita and Allison. Echo what you guys say. All you guys are doing, all that Whipfully is doing for all the small businesses has been outstanding. The work of Boardman Clark as well, Allison in particular, just does so much, the Market Ready program and so many other things. And I couldn't agree more. We need to get back downtown. Boardman Clark has an amazing space in the wonderful ULI owned and managed US Bank building. Hopefully we'll be back soon. All right, we're gonna get on with our program and our two great speakers. Before we make those announcements, we wanna make sure that you know we have time for questions at the end of today's program. So please do send your questions. We really want this to be a conversation. If you have questions, submit those through the Q&A function located at the bottom of the screen, and then I can ask those questions. Amy and Joel said that no question is off limits. They didn't say that, but now I just did. So ask whatever you want, and we will go ahead and ask it. We've got two amazing speakers, two speakers that really do a tremendous amount for our community. As someone that worked a long time in hospitality, I know the importance of hospitality. It brings people to downtown. It creates great spaces for all of us to enjoy downtown, not just visitors. And what Amy and Joel are going to talk about today and the difficulty that they've had over the last year, but the hopeful future they see and a plan they want to create to move forward is important for all of us to hear. because we need to make sure downtown has the best quality of life for everyone. And so much of that comes from the hospitality industry that Amy and Joel helped lead. So first up, we have Amy Supple, who's the Senior Vice President and Chief Operating Officer of the Edgewater Management Company, where she oversees strategy, community relations, and day-to-day operations of the Edgewater Hotel. In peak periods, the Edgewater Hotel hosts over 150,000 visitors a year, including DMI, 12 times a year at least, 500 plus events, and employs over 280 people. That is a lot of people. Prior to joining the Edgewater Madison, Amy was a director of development at Landmark Development Company, LLC. In her career, she is involved in more than $8.3 billion in real estate transactions, finance, marketing, management engagements involving sports and marketing, hospitality, retail, dining, and entertainment assets across the entire U.S. She served as the principal in charge of the $5.8 billion Mayo Clinic Destination Medical Center in Rochester, which is a phenomenal project. Please pay attention to this project. It can be a model for Madison, and we're so lucky to have Amy in our community. But she also worked on the pre-development of the beautiful Edgewater Hotel. She also has had leadership roles in the transformation of Lambeau Field, which is great to all of you except for me as a Vikings fan, but it really is now a 365-day-a-year destination, amazing facilities up there, and working with 18 other professional sports teams on feasibility analysis, planning and development of stadiums and entertainment districts across the country. Welcome, Amy. How are you? Wow, she's good. She's muted, but I swear she's good. She's good. Next up, we have, there we go. How are you doing, Amy?
Wonderful, thank you.
Good. Next up, we have Joel Plant, the CEO of Frank Productions. In his 4.5 years since returning to Madison, Frank Productions has undergone tremendous growth, executing a variety of development projects, acquisitions, and joint ventures, namely the amazing Sylvie downtown. Can't wait to get back for a concert. Joel's career has followed the logical and linear path to leading a live music company. Sounds like my linear path, where he was the managing director of KPMG's Global Advisory Service Group, served for 7 years as the Milwaukee Police Department's chief of staff, and served for 6 years as the deputy mayor under Mayor Cheslevich. Very linear, very linear. A Milwaukee native, Joel has a bachelor's degree from Marquette, a master's degree from Arizona State, and a law degree from UW. During COVID, Joel began practicing mindfulness. I should read these things before. This is the best bio I've ever seen. Joel began practicing mindfulness and is awful at it so far. He is determined to keep working on it. Let me just be very clear. I'm reading exactly what is being said here on my notes. Joel, I gotta say, when they rank mindfulness apps and the apps that I'm using on my phone, I think Headspace comes in dead last. So I'm not very good at practicing mindfulness as well. Good morning, Joel. How are you, my friend?
Good morning, and I need to talk to Connie about my bio, but it's all accurate. Thanks for having me, Jason. I appreciate it. Looking forward to it.
I should have a practice of reading the bio beforehand, before the meeting. As I'm reading this, starting to laugh. But it is all true. Your linear path, though, I think your not so linear path has really created you to be in a position to do so many different things, like leading a music company. And unfortunately, like leading some efforts we have today. Both of your industries are in a very difficult position, right? How has the pandemic impacted your businesses, and how have entertainment and event venues, how are they moving forward, and how are they getting back to business? That's the question we want to ask today. Remember, if you have if you have answers, I suppose you could put them in, but if you have questions, send them in through the chat. We're going to start off with a quick presentation from both of these two and then have some questions from our audience. So who would like to start, Amy or Joel?
I am going to attempt to share my screen, folks, so please bear with me. Amy and I put together a few slides for us today, and I think I can do this. Did that work?
It worked great. All right. First technology hurdle has been, we've gotten over it.
Amazing. All right, just need to get this started here. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having us. We, like I said, we have a few short slides for you to kind of guide primarily me. We want to talk, have a conversation with you and spend a lot of time on the Q&A because we would like to get some information from you guys this morning as well. Our goals are really twofold. One is to share a little bit about what we've been doing for the last 13 months. While Amy's been working very hard, I've largely been hiding under my bed, sucking my thumb, but Amy's done quite a bit of good work, and I'm starting to break out of my shell a little bit now. So we'd like to share a little bit about that and how we've been preparing ourselves for our gradual restart of our industries, the industries that were the first to literally turn off last March. And we recognize that certain components of our business will be the last to turn back on as we move forward. So we'd like to talk a little bit about that, and we'd also like to talk about confidence building and specifically hear from you about what more we can do as hospitality and entertainment industry folks and business operators here in Madison to make you and your cohorts more comfortable and more confident rejoining us in the economy as we move into the summer. So that's our primary goal. So I'm going to walk through a little bit about who we are as a self-styled group, what our focus has been, what we've been working on. Amy's going to talk a bit about where we are right now and what is the near-term next step. And then we'll talk a little bit about some of the innovative short-term temporary models we've been using here and across the country. I've got some specific asks I'd like to lay out for you. This is not a unilateral process. And then we want to spend most of our time today on the Q&A. And Jason said all questions are on, so we'll field whatever comes in as best we can. So that's the plan. First up, who are we? We put together quite a few months ago now, sadly, a group of folks from the hospitality, events, entertainment, sports, the Restaurant Association, the hoteliers. We've got some of the industry associations around catering events, and some locally run companies like the Edgewater and Frank Productions and Food Fight, et cetera. So we got ourselves together, not with a pile of solutions, but with some collective problems and a commitment to finding ways for us to reopen safely, safe for our guests, for our fans, for our customers, for our employees, and our communities. And also find ways for us to provide any assistance that we could to the decision makers in the public health space. And that's a commitment that we started with, and we continue to hold that commitment very strongly. What's been our primary focus? Health and safety. If we can't, we recognize, and it goes without saying, but it needs to be said, if we aren't being safe and we aren't being protective, we are not going to be around for very long, and we are going to be doing damage to our communities, which is the opposite of what we all strive to do. So the health and safety of everyone involved in our operations is our primary concern, which is why we all took ourselves offline so quickly last March. We have been maintaining a close relationship with the public health regulators, locally at the state level, at the federal level, in order to provide as much feedback as we can as regulations are being developed, because it's important to recognize that as these regulations are put forth for businesses in particular, we and all of you who are operating businesses are the ones who are responsible for implementing these regulations. So it's important for us to stay as closely connected as possible as those regulations are being developed and modified, which we've all experienced in the last 13 months. We continue to have regular meetings with local public health officials, and those are constructive conversations as we walk ourselves toward a gradual reopening, which we're all beginning to see in our nearer term. And we continue to work with local leaders, both inside and outside the public health sphere, to find creative solutions and innovative short-term, in most cases, methods and models that we can use to drive industry in a safe way and really begin to build that confidence that we need to build as a community as we move toward restarting. And then I just have a quick note here that we have continued to offer and just recently began using our venues as vaccination sites. And I'll say it until vaccines are no longer necessary, our venues are available and open, and our business is moving people in and out of spaces. So we're optimistic that we'll we'll have more vaccination sites at some of our venues around town. One of the areas that we've spent a lot of time, and our teams have spent a lot of time, is identifying and developing some of the standards and best practices for our unique industries around all the buzzwords: social distancing, masking, sanitization, and cleaning, and then some of the people flow issues of signage and wayfinding and communicating expectations and standards, and going cashless on transactions wherever possible, and modifying our air handling systems, and doing COVID training for our employees and our vendors. For all of those pieces, we've worked very closely together, and we've put together a package that's available on the public health site for anyone who's running an organization who would like to have a checklist of the different components of a risk mitigation plan as we begin to reopen. So we spent a fair amount of time on that, working with public health, and that has now been published. So something available through Public Health Madison-Dane County for everyone. Amy's going to walk us through, I'm sorry, this is my slide, I think, of what we've been doing to help specifically. Big picture, we've been trying to stay engaged at the forefront. And we recognize that none of us in society today have ever dealt with this before. This is a novel issue for all of us, and it's going to require everybody lifting as hard as they can in the same directions for us to continue to walk our way through this. So we've been staying as engaged as possible. We've been advocating for as much clarity and as much certainty as we can receive around a reopening strategy for the various industries that we represent and operate. We've been involved in the vetting of public health orders as they are published. We've provided continuous feedback, and we've seen some modifications based on that feedback based on the feedback that's been resulted in some smart modifications to make those regulations more workable and more effective for the businesses that are expected to implement them. And as I mentioned, we've developed some reopening guidelines that we think are helpful. We've used in our own businesses, and we think are helpful for the other business operators in town to get your feet underneath you and really put a plan together to open your doors in as safe and effective way as possible as we move into the summer. So that's what we've been focused on as a self-styled group. And I think Amy's got some information to share about where we are today and what's next.
Sure, thanks, Joel. So a few things we wanted to touch on. The first is to just talk a little bit about what the emergency order really says and what it means in practical reality. Today, restaurants are at 50%, but tables still need to be 6 foot distant. So for many of the businesses in the downtown, because space is limited, that results in really less than a 20% occupancy for most businesses. We're at, even with the wide spaces and broad spaces that we have, we're really only at about 25% capacity with the 6 foot rule in place. So not the new order going to 50% really didn't change things very much for our business in terms of what could and couldn't get done. Bars did open to 25%, but again, with the 6 foot rule, there's limitations on that. Mass gatherings indoors are at a 50% capacity up to 150, but maintaining social distancing puts limitations on how you can use those spaces. We have spaces where we can only fit 5, 10, or under 20 people, multiple spaces in this building, and of course that limits our ability to plan and do things that we'd like to start to do. And then mass gatherings outdoors have no capacity limit, but we have to maintain social distancing. People are coming up with some really creative ideas. Joel's going to talk about what they're doing at Breeze Stevens, which I think is a brilliant plan and going to be really, really successful. So, the point of pointing this out is really just to say we're moving in the right direction, but there is still a long way to go before business is back to what would be considered normalized operations. And so, you know, we have to think about what that means from a business standpoint and an industry standpoint. Some of the challenges are the capacity limits. Some other challenges are there's inconsistencies between restaurants and taverns and venues. So, you know, by way of example, I can't have a meeting in the restaurant space, but I can. Pardon me. I can have about 60 people in the restaurant space, but I can't have 60 people downstairs in a similar size space because the two orders are different. And you know, that inconsistency creates some variations in sort of what certain venues can do and other venues can't do, and it's created some inconsistencies. So some of that's been challenging for industry partners. The other piece of this is we just need more clarity on how we're going to go forward. Groups are canceling out to the fourth quarter. I had our team pull for me a few statistics. This year, going into this year, you know, we had X amount on the books. Thus far this year, we've lost more than 30% of that business because people just don't know what they can plan for. And just February through April, we lost 85% of the business that was booked as we went into this year. Again, people just need more certainty around these things. We're having a hard time luring people back to work because we can't guarantee full-time hours. We don't exactly know what's going to happen in the future. And that's been a real challenge for some of us. On the positive side, a survey of corporate clients that we recently did said 77% are planning to meet in 2021, that their number one decision-making factor is knowing what to expect with the mandates. And number two is their own corporate policies and what will and won't be allowed. And then there remains a high level of interest in safety protocols. So what does this all mean? From a hospitality industry standpoint, we're seeing some challenges. The graph on the left side of the page shows STAR data, which is competitive set data that is pulled for hotels. In this case, it's a statewide survey that's done. Typically, Madison would run 5 to 10% ahead of other statewide markets. And what you can see is we're running 7.2% below Milwaukee, 9.9% below Green Bay. Jason I'm sure Jason's looking at the slide and shocked by it, as was I when this data started to come in. And what that means is really business is going to other markets. It's not that the business isn't happening, it's going to other markets, and we're losing opportunities for downtown restaurants and retail. We're also losing room tax and sales tax collections. And so these are all important statistics that we're looking at, and as an industry, I think speak to sort of where we are today. Joel, if you want to advance. So one of the things that we've been working on with public health and I think, you know, having really good discussions around is that we want to promote we want to bring more clarity to what the reopening strategy is and how we can move forward. And there's certain things that I think we all agree on. First and foremost, we want to do this safely. No one in the industry that I've talked to has said, let's just kick the doors open and let whatever happen. We want to do this smartly and safely. And I think as we've lived through this, we've learned a lot, and we've developed processes and procedures that can help us do things safely. You know, we've been operating continuously since March. We've learned a ton along the way. You know, a lot of trial and error, but I feel very confident that we can start to do more than we're doing now. The other thing is we want to look at this in a staged, as a staged progression. So we can do a little more now. So let's do a little more, and then let's see how that goes for a couple of weeks. And then let's do a little more and a little more and a little more. But the point is, we need to know over the course of the next, month, 2 months, what have you, what's going to happen, or we're going to continue to see those meetings and events start to cancel. I have seen in the last week, we've had 5 events cancel into the 3rd and 4th quarters, big events, that are just saying, we just don't know what we're going to be allowed to do, and we got to make these decisions now. So much of our business is planned 3, 6, 9 months ahead of time, a year ahead of time, 2 years ahead of time. So certainty is critical to our ability to succeed. We want to lend our experience and advice, and public health has been great about that. They've really welcomed our group to participating in these discussions. And the other thing is, we really just want to follow the metrics and follow the science, and really look at and study and analyze, what are we doing well, what aren't we doing well, how can we improve. So again, if you look at the box below in the meeting surveys, there's a desire to get back to meeting, there's a desire to travel, there's, the demand is there. We really want to begin to put together this plan for how do we reopen. So I'm going to have Joel share some of their plans, because I think they're doing it. They're the gold standard for how you can get back to large events and concerts.
Thank you very much, Amy. I want to pick up on a couple of points that Amy made, talking about being science-based and this notion of trial and error. And I am routinely reminding myself that science is all about experimentation. So how do we use scientific facts to make decisions? Well, the scientific facts are developed out of trial and error. They're specifically developed out of failure, things that didn't work the way we expected. So we have to have some capacity and some appetite for innovation, especially in a unique circumstance like we've all been experiencing in the last 13 months. So I'll talk a little bit about some experimentation that we've done. We're fortunate at Frank Productions we've actually always operated for almost 6 decades as a nationwide company that happens to be based in Madison. And in the last few years, we've grown ourselves to have offices and venues in a variety of states, including Tennessee and Missouri and South Carolina and Wisconsin. So we've had opportunities in different environments to try different things. And I'll talk through one of the experiments that we've successfully accomplished and how we're applying it locally here in about 2 weeks. But this idea of longevity, I think, is an important one, in staying power and growth as a company and as an industry. How do you build it? Well, I like to talk about the fact that Frank Productions, like I said, has been around for almost 60 years. How has it been around for 60 years? Not by chance, some by luck, like everybody, but by caring about people and communities, by caring about employees and fans and customers and vendors and the communities that we operate in. That's paramount. We care. So we're not going to do things that are careless. Secondarily, we know how to adapt. We've pivoted, and never has there been a time for more adaptation and pivoting and experimenting than now. And third, we follow the rules. It's an important point, and I'll get to that in the ask component of this, but we follow the rules. Even when they're frustrating rules, we follow the rules, and we work with the rule makers to have workable and effective regulations, and that's what we've been doing as a group all along. So as we talk about what we've been experimenting on in our South Carolina team, we successfully put together a series last fall that has continued already in South Carolina this spring. We did 11 outdoor shows, about 1,000 capacity, potted, socially distanced, heavily regulated in terms of masking, heavily sanitized. It was a very awkward looking concert. If you stood at the front of the room and looked at it, front of the field, and looked at it, you'd say, well, this is unusual, but it was very effective. We sold out 9 of the 11 shows. We had more than 10,000 tickets sold. We had 0 complaints from law enforcement. We had 0 citations. We had 0 complaints from event goers, 0 complaints from the artists and their crew, and no cases that we've been made aware of that trace back to our event. So we created a version of a drive-in concert in a field where we allow people to sit with their family units and watch a show. Again, cumbersome, unusual, and 14 months ago, everyone in the industry would have chuckled at this, if not made fun of it. And now, many people in the industry have asked, and we've shared how we did it. And it was through a lot of experimentation and a lot of trial and error. This is not our new business model. This is an important point for us to make. This is not how we're going to succeed forever moving forward. This is a temporary experiment with the intention of hosting and promoting and producing safe, socially distanced, regulations following concerts to begin to build confidence within the communities that we can do this safely as we move ourselves toward a vaccination threshold. Happily, we're hosting several of these at Bree Stevens Field, our favorite outdoor venue in Madison, starting May 6th. And Amy had mentioned the demand that she's seeing on the event side of the industry. The demand for concerts is there. We're seeing it across the country when we're able to do outdoor and limited capacity indoor shows. Tickets are selling very fast. Our Mount Joy show for May 6th sold out in a matter of minutes. And we're very proud of that, but we know the demand is there. And we're going to continue to find ways to service that demand in safe and appropriate ways. The next slide I have is our ask of you. And this has to be, this is part of the conversation we want to have, this has to be a shared experience. So what do we need from the community? It's a handful of points that we'd like to highlight today. First, continue to be responsible. I know we all are trying our best to understand the circumstances that we're in and educate ourselves about the regulations around COVID and best practices for ourselves, our families, our businesses, and our communities. Follow the rules. I have not seen a lot of flagrant violations. I have not experienced people willfully not following the rules. I've seen a lot of people working hard to figure out ways that they can effectively and workably follow the regulations that are in place for the community safety. We ask that when you do come to our spaces, especially when you come to an unusual or a temporary setup like we're going to have at Bree Stevens, please take a little bit of extra care and follow the rules and the processes when you're attending these events. It's unusual, it's uncomfortable, especially after 13 months of doing very little as a society. So please pay extra attention and give care in those areas. Very importantly, come to the show, support local restaurants, host events at local hotels, have a staycation if that's something that you choose to do, and choose Madison. Spend your money here, spend the resources here, especially as we begin to enjoy, I think, our second round of spring weather is coming. Please do spend your time and your resources in the local businesses here in town. If it's your choice, get vaccinated. I know that there are, the supply is beginning to outstrip demand, which is good. We're getting to that threshold point where on a national level, our expectation is when everyone who would like to have a vaccine has had their doses of vaccine and the waiting period has elapsed, our expectation is the restrictions on the economy will go away so that we can get back to our more routine levels of business only when the people who desire vaccines have had a chance to get them. And here in Dane County, that supply is present. So if you choose to get vaccinated, if that's your choice, please do so. And importantly, have fun. let's get ourselves back to what we all enjoy so much, especially in the summer in Madison, which is being together, recreating together, enjoying entertainment and events together, and having a good time, which is the best part of my work, and I think the best part of having events and hospitality and entertainment as a cornerstone to our industry. So those are our asks of you. And with that, we would like to open it up to any questions or comments that you have, because we want to hear, like I mentioned at the top, we'd like to hear from you about ways that we can help build confidence as we return to general operations. Thank you, everybody, for your time.
Joel and Amy, thank you very much for the presentation and the update. And a personal thank you from all of us at DMI for your continued work and strong communication, frequent communication with public health and elected officials. You guys have made a difference and helped to bring innovation and creativity into the conversation to make sure that we can keep people safe and healthy while enjoying the best of what Madison has to offer. So as Joel mentioned, we're going to open it up for questions. You can submit your questions either in the chat or in the Q&A function. The first question we have, I think, is important because we're starting to enter this time, right? May 6th is not too far away. The Chamber Orchestra announced going to Bree Stevens for Concert on the Square. Forward Madison has made announcements. What are, and events coming back to the hotels. What do you both, what should we expect as a guest when we arrive to these places? And you know, how can we be ready to make sure we help? I know you started to talk about that, Joel, in your last slide, but what can we expect and how can we make sure that we're helping you guys with the work and keep everybody safe?
Well, I know for us, the most important thing that we need people to do is to follow the mandates and guidelines that are put out by public health. What is really difficult for staff is to have some of these conversations, about wearing a mask or social distancing when people, may not personally believe in these things. We still have to make sure that the mandates are followed, and that, and that we're keeping everyone as safe as possible in this environment. So the things, I know from our staff, what they would say is just please follow the rules and help us do that, because the safer we can make it, the more we'll be able to do sooner. I think Joel's slide said it something about, concerts want you to wear masks.
Yeah, thank you, Amy. I would say, I think that people should expect some different, in our venues, some different queuing procedures, more signage, more staff communication. We'll have more people to manage our crowds than we've had in the past. We expect more cleaning, hand cleaning stations, cashless transactions, the things that are becoming normative and routine across the country, where we're seeing some more activity. You should expect to see here, and all of it is intended to make the experience faster and safer and better across the board. So a lot of the procedures that we'll be putting in place, we have put in place in other venues, will be permanent and will ease the process for concerts and events in our venues forever. I think the masking will all be based on the local regulations, local restrictions, and I always caution that, or mention that, I think there will be a component of society that will want to wear masks for a very long time, and we will not be stopping that. So the voluntary wearing of masks is not something that we're going to be interrupting anywhere in the country.
Joel, you bring up a really good point about what of these trends, I guess, one of these changes will become permanent. I think sometimes we've seen in many other places in retail, we've seen acceleration of trends that were already in the marketplace, and we're now doing to make sure people are safe or to get things to happen more efficiently. What do you think will remain? And what has been a positive that you've learned that you can keep, both of you, in your standard operating procedures moving forward?
Real quick, I would say the notion of cashless transactions will be a permanent fixture. It's not that we will not allow cash, but there will be more defined procedures for the different types of transactions. I think we'll see more queuing entry times. So we'll have staggered entry times for folks as an option so that people can ease their entrance to our venues. I think that'll be something that we see last. And I think just the enhanced focus on clean air and on sanitation procedures will be something that's permanent across the board. So on the operational level. As an employer, we're going to do all the right things in terms of don't come to work if you're ill. We're going to have more flexibility, maintain more flexibility with our team in terms of remote work and work from home. So those are permanent changes that honestly have been a long time coming. And I will say I'm very guilty of saying to myself for my entire career, if you're sick, you got to be sick somewhere, you might as well be at work, right? How stupid am I? That will never happen again. And I'm embarrassed to say it, but I need to say it because I would imagine that of the 134 people on this call, there's at least one other person that's done that in the past, and we all need to stop it.
Amy, in the hospitality field, a lot happening. Do you see some of these changes becoming permanent as well?
Definitely. And I think Joel hit on a lot of the important pieces to it. I think also just in being more cognizant of just wiping down surfaces and how close interaction you have with people. For us, we have people coming in literally from all over the world. And so just being super sensitive to wiping down elevator keys and door handles and things like that, in the past, of course they got cleaned, but it wasn't a multiple times a day, every hour sort of thing. And I think now you'll see more of that. I agree with Joel too. A lot of our employees, when we have an event going on, it's sort of, you get up and you rally and do whatever it takes to get through an event or get through a day. You don't want to leave your teammates short a person or two people if people are sick. And, I think those days are gone. So we're going to need to have plans in place and contingency plans for, what happens if people call up. How do we do that? And one of the things we put in place over the last year was a lot of cross training between departments so that people could pinch hit, and that won't change in our world, at least in the next year.
Well, as a former GM, we're the great cross-trained employees. So oftentimes you'd find Amy and myself in the laundry or in banqueting or in cleaning rooms. Although my room time for cleaning rooms is not very good. So the housekeeping manager never liked me. I never did the 27 minutes. I was more like 57 minutes to clean a room. So Amy, I think a really important question we got from the audience, and Joel as well. As you look at the challenges your industry has experienced, are there any micro numbers on potential consolidation, contraction in the industries, and or what opportunities might there be? Please outline, particularly in Dane County. I think this is a big question for downtown, but our region in general, because tourism and events is such an important part of the economy. Are we going to see some contraction and consolidation?
Yeah, industry-wide, the industry is seeing upwards of 15% consolidation and closings and things like that, 15-20%. The stimulus packages really helped with that. I think time will tell, to be honest with you. I was at a meeting with a group of GMs that were from across the state, but mainly from Dane County a couple of weeks ago. And, people said if things don't start to change and things don't start to open up, we're going to see more closures in Dane County. The stimulus money has run out already. And, there's not going to be another round of that we see coming. I saw one of the questions was the shuttered venues, and that probably applies to Joel's world a little more than ours, but we're going to struggle, and I think people are on a razor's edge across Dane County on whether they can remain open or not. If my 35% loss for the year goes to 60%, that's a game changer. I mean, the Edgewater won't close. We'll figure it out. We're in a very fortunate position, but not everybody is in as fortunate position as we are. So I think we've already seen 2 of the downtown project be put on hold and potentially permanently. That's going to have an impact. And we're starting to see a few hotels in the area that are shuttering and won't reopen. So we're starting to feel it here, and another 3 months of this, you'll see more of that.
Joel, the next question is for you, kind of a two-part question, multiple questions here. Lots of questions about what are the plans for the Sylvie and their reopening? What will that experience look like? I think you touched part of that earlier, but what are the plans for the Sylvie? And then does Frank plan to show a proof of vaccine, to attend a concert in the future?
Great questions. I'll start with the proof of vaccine. We are not currently planning on implementing a proof of vaccine process. Our expectation is across the country is that when we again overstep the threshold of supply of the vaccine outstripping demand, we expect regulations will be removed, meaning we will not have vaccine-only events. At the same time, I know for certain that there are certain artists that are really trying to promote vaccinations and are talking around the country about having vaccine-only concerts. So there may be some of that occurs on a case-by-case basis. I don't expect that to happen for several months. I also can tell you that Ticketmaster has developed a technology to have proof of vaccine as part of the ticketing process. So the technology exists to have proof of vaccine as part of the ticket purchase and ticket display process. But we are, as a venue operator, we are not currently planning on having that be a routine part of our business. As far as facilities reopening, I was reflecting on this morning. I think the last time I spoke at one of these breakfast events was in January of 2017 at the Edgewater with Amy, when we talked about the Sylvie. We announced the Sylvie at that breakfast, and we hadn't even broken ground yet. And here I am now talking about the second opening of the Sylvie, which will be later this summer if we continue on the path we're on, and we're very excited about that. Our plans for reopening are to come back at full capacity when it is safe to do so and when the regulations allow. And everybody should expect a series of raucous, fun shows.
I love it. We are ready. We are ready. A question, there goes Amy's light. It happens every time Amy and I meet. Clap on, clap off. Next question is for Joel, but I think it also matters for Amy. What are the lessons you've seen from reopening efforts in other markets that we could apply to downtown Madison? I think you guys talked about that innovation and creation. You're looking at other markets. Specifically, you mentioned Milwaukee and what public health is doing. What are other markets and other hotels doing to reopen safely that we can really just take their ideas and run with them?
Amy, you want to start with that?
Sure. I'll touch on the Milwaukee plan, and I want to credit Frank Productions for really working hard to take that idea and then blend a lot of industry information together to create this guideline that public health has actually listed on their website. But the reason those that sort of guideline document is important is it gives everyone a roadmap for how can you do this safely. A lot of us who operated through this, a lot of the flagged hotels and larger restaurant groups and Frank Productions, we've got teams of people that are developing these ideas. To be wholly successful, we need everybody to kind of follow the same set of rules and play by the same set of rules and also participate in the safety guidelines in the same way. And so, by creating that kind of standardized roadmap that everyone can follow, regardless of size, financial situation, et cetera, that's really helpful for doing this and getting things open in a safe and smart way.
I agree with all of that. I would say very generally, what we've learned: slow down. There's an emergency that we're under here, but we've got to take appropriate urgent steps, not emergent steps. Get aligned and stay aligned in your industry, in your business cohorts, in your region, with the industry folks and with the regulators and the decision makers. And I'll say this as calmly as I can. Knock out this myth of us versus them, business versus health and safety. It is a myth.
Yes.
Knock it off. We cannot behave as though there's this side or that side. We are all aligned. That's how we're going to see positive results. And honestly, that's where we are seeing the best results around the country right now, is where that myth is muted, if not non-existent.
I'm hoping that this idea that the public-private partnership can become stronger in areas like this and in other areas. And I've seen glimpses of that during the pandemic, and I hope that that continues. So Joel, thank you for those last comments. And Joel, I think that the mindfulness might be working, because you said the first thing is to slow down. And I believe that that is the whole ethos of mindfulness. So something is registering, Joel. All right, last question, an important question. What are you two most excited about when we get back open to either attend or to host here in Madison?
Joel?
Oh, I could go a lot of ways on this, but I'm very excited to stand at the front door of the Sylvie and watch our first sold out show come in. I'm very excited for that moment.
I'm excited for graduation, and I'll tell you why. We have had some really quiet days here, and graduation is going to be the first day since the pandemic hit, or the first weekend since the pandemic hit, that everything's going to be open to some level, and there's going to be a lot of people just having fun on property. And I'm just excited to see the life around here. There's nothing, you know, it's no secret. I love the Edgewater, and I love this place when it's just hopping on a Saturday and there's a concert going and the boathouse is open, and you know, there's a wedding going on, and the hotel is full. It's just fun, and to see that life come back is great. And I know it's going to be about 70% of the way there on graduation, and that's okay. That's a good first step.
Well, a huge thank you to Amy Supple, Senior Vice President and Chief Operating Officer of the Edgewater Management Company, and Joel Plant, the king of mindfulness himself and CEO of Frank Productions, for being here today to talk about this hyper important industry for downtown tourism, event venues, and getting back in a health and safe way. Thank you for your innovation, thank you for your communication, and thank you for continuing to work with groups like us on how we can move forward to get past this virus and then start to enjoy the crowds coming into the Sylvie and a full graduation where everyone is back at Camp Randall. Thank you all to our members for attending here today. We really appreciate it. And thank you to our sponsors, our major series sponsor, Whitley LLP, our series sponsors, Ho Chunk Gaming, Madison, Michael Best, and Friedrich, State Bank of Cross Plains, Boardman Clark, our monthly sponsor this month, and the Edgewater Hotel. We hope to be back soon, and our friends at UW Health, Unity Point Health, Meritor, and Quartz. Thank you all for joining us. Please check out the DMI website for all of the future events coming up soon, including the Madison and Milwaukee Downtown Exchange. All the information is available online. Hope you have a great day, and do what they say. Get vaccinated. Bring your events back downtown. Enjoy safely the events that are happening now. Support your restaurants, support your hotels, support the concert on the 6th of May, and support our friends at Forward Madison. Any of these ideas, make sure you support these so that they can survive now to thrive into the future. Thank you all for being here today. Hope you have a wonderful, sunny, and delightful day, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye, everyone.